Welcome back. Today we're diving into some really fascinating stuff, anxiety and hypnotherapy.
Oh, interesting.
We've got this training session led by Virginie,
Hmm.
and she's, a big name in advanced conversational hypnosis.
Yeah, I've heard of her.
Which, just so everyone knows, it's a specific type of hypnotherapy
Yeah, okay.
that focuses on using language to access the subconscious mind.
Right.
But Virginie, she makes this kind of a bold claim.
Hmm.
She says she can teach us everything we need to know about addressing anxiety in just a few minutes.
No, that's definitely attention grabbing.
Right.
Especially when you think about all the stuff out there dedicated to anxiety management.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got therapists, coaches, programs, seminars, books.
It's a whole industry.
It really is. The whole works.
So much focus on specific techniques, certifications.
Wow.
There's some magic formula out there.
Mm.
But what I found really intriguing was how Virginie kind of pushes back against that whole trend.
Yeah, she's definitely got a different perspective on things.
Yeah.
She kind of sees this, this hyper focus on specific methods
Yeah.
as almost a distraction,
Mhm.
She argues that anxiety, and actually a lot of the other issues people seek therapy for,
Oh, okay.
things like, smoking, insomnia,
Yeah.
even relationship problems,
Interesting.
they're actually symptoms,
Okay.
not the root cause of the problem itself.
Symptom, not the cause, so that's already kind of flipping the script a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And she's saying this applies to a whole range of issues, not just anxiety.
Exactly, yeah. Think of it this way. Take someone with a fear of public speaking, for example.
Okay, classic example.
On the surface, it seems like, okay, it's the fear they want to get rid of.
Right.
But Virginie would argue that that fear is just a signal
Hmm.
pointing to something deeper.
Beeper. Okay.
So in their case, and this is where it gets interesting, the unconscious payoff,
Unconscious payoff. Okay.
that hidden benefit they're getting from staying afraid, might be, let's say, avoiding the responsibility of leadership roles
Oh, interesting.
or dodging the pressure of success that comes with being, a great speaker.
Okay, so instead of asking, how do I stop being afraid of public speaking?
Right.
The question becomes, why am I afraid?
Exactly.
What's happening beneath the surface?
Precisely, yeah. And that beneath the surface part, that's where this whole unconscious payoff thing comes into play.
Okay.
It's like it's this often hidden motivation
Right.
that's keeping the symptom, whether it's the fear, the anxiety, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
it keeps it firmly in place.
When I first heard about this unconscious payoff idea,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it made me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I understand that.
It almost felt like I was being accused of wanting to be anxious.
Right.
Like, hey, some part of you is actually enjoying this suffering.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I think that's a very natural reaction.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to think that they're choosing to feel bad.
Right.
But what's important is to remember that this payoff, it's happening on an unconscious level.
Okay.
It's not like you're consciously aware of it or deliberately choosing it.
Right.
It's more subtle than that.
Okay, so how on earth do you even find this unconscious payoff if it's so hidden?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And Virginie argues that this is where the real work of therapy actually begins. Instead of just jumping to symptom management,
Yeah.
you really dive deep into, the individual's personal history,
Okay.
their beliefs, their patterns.
Right.
It's less about learning some quick fix technique and more about deep self-discovery.
So it's like being a detective, right?
Exactly.
Looking for clues, piecing together evidence to figure out why this unconscious payoff is so rewarding.
Right.
That it's worth holding on to all that anxiety.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, that's exactly what it's about.
But what about the anxiety itself? While you're figuring out this deeper stuff,
Yeah.
does ignoring the symptom, isn't that dangerous?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And one that Virginie addresses directly.
Okay.
It's not about ignoring the anxiety, completely.
Right.
It's more about recognizing it as a messenger.
Okay.
It's trying to tell you something. The real work is understanding what that message actually is.
I'm starting to get it, but, Virginie is pretty critical of some of these traditional approaches to anxiety. She even, takes aim at this whole concept of searching for a root cause.
Yeah.
Didn't she say something like, if you think you already know how to find the root cause, then you definitely don't understand what it's really about?
She did, yeah. I think what she's getting at is,
Yeah, what does she mean by that?
well, the search for a root cause can sometimes oversimplify things, It can make us think there's this one single event or experience
Yeah.
that explains everything, and it can keep us stuck in the past.
Interesting.
Instead of fixating on this potentially elusive root cause.
Right.
She wants us to look at things from a different angle. Instead of that root cause, focus on the function of the anxiety, the unconscious payoff it's giving you right now.
So it's about figuring out what your anxiety is trying to, achieve for you.
Exactly.
Even if it seems, totally counterintuitive.
Yeah, and that could be a hard thing to wrap your head around.
It reminds me of this time I was so stressed out about a presentation
Oh, yeah.
I had to give at work. I was, losing sleep over it.
Wow.
Panic attacks, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But here's the weird thing. A part of me did not want to practice.
Really?
It was almost like, I don't know, I was subconsciously sabotaging myself or something.
That's really interesting. So you had this anxiety about the presentation,
Mm-hmm.
but also this, resistance to actually preparing for it.
Yeah, and it's funny because looking back, I realized the presentation, it wasn't even that big of a deal. In the grand scheme of things, my anxiety was way out of proportion to what was actually at stake.
That disproportionate response, that could be a clue, pointing to an unconscious payoff.
Right.
What were you thinking and feeling about the presentation itself? What came up for you when you thought about, doing well?
Well, if I'm honest with myself, succeeding at that presentation, it probably would have meant taking on more responsibility at work, maybe even a promotion.
Okay.
And at the time, a part of me just wasn't ready for that.
Right.
I liked my routine, even though I was always complaining about it.
So in a way, the anxiety about the presentation, it might have been a way of keeping you safe from that perceived threat of more responsibility and change.
Wow. When you put it like that, it makes total sense. My anxiety was protecting me from something that I wasn't consciously ready to face.
And that's a classic example of how this, unconscious payoff can work.
Right.
It's not about seeking out the anxiety itself.
Right.
It's about avoiding something.
Yeah.
That feels even more threatening.
Okay, so going back to Virginie,
Yeah.
how does she suggest we start uncovering this hidden payoff?
Well, she really emphasizes that it's a very personal process.
Right.
There's no magic formula, no one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
It requires really a deep dive into your own experiences and motivations.
Okay.
And that's why working with a skilled therapist can be so valuable.
So it's not just about learning, some anxiety-busting tricks.
Right.
It's about understanding yourself on a, much deeper level.
Yeah, it's about becoming aware of those underlying motivations that are driving not just your behavior, but your emotional responses too.
Okay, so let's say I'm, ready to embark on this journey of self-discovery.
Great.
Are there any, I don't know, specific questions I can start asking myself?
That's a great question. It's cool.
What?
For Virginie, she actually provides some prompts in her training. She suggests starting by thinking about the situations that trigger your anxiety and actually writing them down.
Okay.
Then asking yourself, what am I afraid of in this moment?
Okay, so get real specific about those fears, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And then take it a step further and ask, what would happen if my fear came true?
Oh, wow.
Imagine that worst case scenario.
So you're really facing that fear head on,
Yeah.
exploring those negative consequences.
Right. And then here's the really interesting part.
Okay.
Virginie suggests asking, what positive outcome might I be avoiding by staying anxious?
Oh, that's a real mind shift.
It is, yeah.
Instead of just dwelling on the negative, I'm looking for the potential good things I might be unconsciously pushing away.
Exactly. Because sometimes our anxiety might be protecting us in this roundabout way from something we perceive as even more threatening.
Interesting.
It might be keeping us from stepping outside of our comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is causing us pain.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So our anxiety might actually be like a shield, trying to keep us safe from some perceived danger.
It's definitely a possibility. And by identifying that perceived danger,
Right.
that positive outcome we're avoiding, we can start to understand that deeper motivation behind the anxiety.
Okay. I think this is starting to click for me.
Good.
It's like Virginie is saying, don't just look at what you're running from, but also what you might be running towards.
That's a fantastic way to put it, yeah.
It's about recognizing that interplay between, our conscious and unconscious desires
Mm-hmm.
and how they might be shaping our experience.
Exactly.
So instead of, I don't know, fighting our anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
we should be curious about it, trying to understand what it's trying to tell us.
Absolutely. It's about becoming an observer of your own internal experience
Okay.
and then using that awareness
Yeah.
to make more conscious choices, reclaiming your power and your agency.
This really makes me rethink my whole relationship with anxiety,
Yeah, it's a shift in perspective.
It's not something to be feared or conquered,
right.
but it's like a part of myself that's trying to communicate something.
And by listening to that message, by understanding that unconscious payoff, we can start to heal and grow.
It's so empowering to think that we have this ability to actually change our relationship with anxiety, that we don't have to be victims of it.
Exactly. It's about understanding that we have more control than we often realize.
Uncovering this unconscious payoff, it sounds like quite a journey.
It can be, yeah.
And probably one that's best navigated with a skilled guide.
Absolutely. While self-reflection is, a crucial part of it,
Right.
working with a therapist who really understands this approach can provide such invaluable support and guidance.
So finding the right therapist is key. Someone who can help you connect the dots between your past experiences, your anxieties right now, and those positive outcomes that you might be subconsciously avoiding.
That's right. And remember, it's about finding a therapist who you really resonate with, someone you feel comfortable, opening up to and exploring these often sensitive topics with.
It's a partnership,
Exactly.
a collaborative effort to uncover those hidden motivations that are driving your experience.
Exactly. And that collaboration, it can lead to some really profound insights and transformations.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of anxiety and like a renewed sense of hope that it doesn't have to control my life.
I'm so glad to hear that. And one thing Virginie said that really stuck with me is that the process of uncovering this unconscious payoff, it's often more about self-discovery than problem solving.
So it's about understanding yourself better.
Yeah.
Not just trying to fix something that's broken.
That's it. And that journey of self-discovery, it can be challenging,
Right.
but it's also incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
It can lead to a deeper understanding of yourself and a greater sense of peace and well-being.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
Yeah, I agree.
This has been a really insightful deep dive into the world of anxiety and hypnotherapy. And I'm grateful for your expertise and your insights.
It's been my pleasure, really. And what I think is so exciting about Virginie's approach, it really empowers people, to take ownership of their experience.
It's not like you're handing your anxiety over to an expert
Right.
and just hoping they'll fix it. It's more about like you're becoming an active participant
Exactly.
in your own healing process.
Yeah. And speaking of active participation, Virginie really emphasizes that finding that unconscious payoff, it's not a one-time thing.
Okay.
It's like an ongoing process of self-discovery.
So it's not like you just find the one aha moment. That explains everything.
Exactly.
It's more about staying curious and like checking in with yourself regularly.
Yeah, and I think that's why therapy can be so valuable in this process.
Okay.
It gives you that safe space, that supportive space to explore these, these deeper motivations and these patterns with someone who can offer guidance and a fresh perspective.
So to kind of wrap things up here,
Yeah.
if someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, I want to explore this unconscious payoff idea, where do I even start? What would you tell them?
I would say the first step is just becoming aware of the concept.
Okay.
Start paying attention to your anxiety, noticing when it shows up, what might be triggering it.
Right.
And then ask yourself those key questions that Virginie suggested.
Yeah.
What am I afraid of in this situation?
Okay.
What would happen if that fear came true? And what positive outcome might I be avoiding by staying anxious?
Those questions can be so powerful.
They can be, yeah.
For like really starting to explore what's going on beneath the surface. And you know what? It occurs to me that this whole unconscious payoff idea, it doesn't just apply to anxiety.
Oh, absolutely not.
It could probably like shed light on all sorts of behaviors and patterns we might be struggling with.
For sure.
It's like a framework for understanding human motivation on this deeper level.
It is, yeah.
It can help us make sense of everything.
Right.
From like procrastination to relationship problems to career choices. Like, it's really about getting to the heart of why we do the things we do. This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I feel like not only do I have this new understanding of anxiety, but also like a whole new lens for looking at myself and my choices.
I love that, and that's what's so exciting about this work.
Yeah.
It's not just about managing symptoms, you know? It's about self-discovery, growth, and ultimately living a more authentic and fulfilling life.
Well said.
Thank you.
So to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has, sparked your curiosity, giving you some new tools for understanding your own experiences. And remember, there's always more to discover about yourself.
That's true.
And sometimes those most valuable insights are the ones that are hidden just beneath the surface.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration.